Wait a couple of seconds here just to let some more people enter, and then we're going to get rolling. So just give it a minute and we're going to get started. Okay, all right. So let's get rolling. So welcome to my another episode in the series of webinars that I'm doing about scaling up your business without burning out. That's like leaving that frustration behind, that anxiety behind, you know, are the people going to show up for work, or am I going to be able to make payroll, or am I going to be able to collect the money that's owed me, and am I going to be able to pay the money that I owe? So who is this webinar for? Well, it's for owners of businesses that have between 5 and 50 employees, and they're really, really feeling frustrated a lot of the time, or even half the time. So they want solutions. And so I'm going to be talking about in this series of webinars that I conduct every Wednesday, and then I post them on YouTube so you can rewatch them and take notes. Take notes now, but rewatch them and get the learnings from them and apply those learnings into your business. So I call this whole series the Strategic Business Success Blueprint because that's what it is. Here's the thing: success leaves clues. There is no dark tunnel to success. As you can see behind me, I don't know how many books are there. I think over 300 books that I've read in the past 30 years, I guess, or so. The solutions to success are everywhere around you: bookstores, podcasts, webinars like this one, coaches like myself. There, it's not hidden. There's no, hidden plan or hidden, there's no secret formula that's going to come out from behind whatever and show up. The secret to success is in every bookstore. It's in podcasts. It's in seminars and webinars. It's working with coaches like myself to speed the whole process up so that to get from here to there, you get there a whole lot quicker. So my name is Laurie McNaughton, and I am the founder of TPQ Business Coaching. I call it TPQ because turn a profit quick, because too many people think, oh, we're in business, we're starting out, we don't make any money in the first few years. By the time you hadn't made any money in the first few years, you might be already out of business. And so my goal is to get you making money as soon as possible. Now, all of the strategies that I cover in these webinars will help you do exactly that and help you do it with a lot more fun, with a lot less stress and anxiety, and a lot more clarity. So today we're going to talk again about people, because people is a key component of the success of any business. If you don't have a great team of people, I'm sorry, you're not going to make it. And statistically, businesses that have teams of people, 50% fail in 5 years and 70% fail in 10 years. So I don't know about you, but if you're starting out, I don't want to go out of business in 5 years or 10 years. I want to be around for as long as I want to be around and enjoy myself, make money, enjoy the pleasure that comes with building a successful business. So let's move along. So I call this a particular presentation: clarity plus alignment equals performance. So, and this idea of this people working together operating system, when you get everybody working together as a cohesive team, watch out. You become unstoppable. And the clarity and alignment is really about the vision and mission and the core values of the company and aligning that with your team. And that's going to affect the performance. I've talked about that in previous videos, and I probably touch on it in every video that I do because it's so important. So again, why Laurie McNaughton? And of course, for you who have seen this video, or pardon me, seen my videos before, already know my history. But I think it's important to talk about this because here's the thing. I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I grew up very unsure of myself, little, if any, confidence, not a lot of self-awareness of who I was and what I could do and what was possible in my life. And so I lived a very reckless youth. So from my early teens to my mid 20s, I might have been on a bit of a train wreck, if I could call it that. If one of you would have hired me back then, I don't think you would have thought that I was a particularly good employee. But 20, or pardon me, when I was 25, 26 years old, I woke up one afternoon with a serious hangover. And I said to myself, Laurie, there has to be more to life than this because I can't do this much longer. And so it wasn't long after that, I got a job. I grew up in a small town, Lloydminster, 2.5, 3 hours from here. And I moved to Edmonton and slowly started to put together a life that I could be proud of. And it started with reading books on personal development. And so I'm just going to give you a little litany of some of the stuff that I've done. So I was 16 years with the number one business coaching company in the world. So I was one of anywhere from 800 to 1,000 because that changed over given periods of time. There was coaches coming in and coaches going out, just like in anything. There's some people that succeed and some people that don't succeed. So I was a multiple award-winning top 10% coach for both growth and retention. You can see a couple of the awards on the shelf back there and actually some over here too. And when they talk about 10%, so those are the people that grew their businesses significantly and they had high retention rates. Now, I'm pretty pleased that I was able to grow my business to where it was as a coach. But what made that possible was my retention rate because I had a 17 months retention rate. And what does a retention rate mean to you? It means that I'm getting results for my clients. So I've been doing this over 21 years now. I work with business owners and their teams, do it through workshops and one-to-one coaching. I've been to over 24 business conferences in my lifetime. I did Tony Robbins Mastery University, which included Life Mastery, Date with Destiny, and Financial Mastery. I also went to Power to Influence and Unlimited Power Weekend. And for those of you who know Tony Robbins, one of the things he's famous for was his firewalk. I don't know if he still does that. I don't think he does, but I could be wrong. But I did the firewalk not once, but twice. So also went to Context and Associates, Pursuit of Excellence, the Wall and Advancement in the Excellent Investment in the Advancement in Excellence. Now, here's the thing I would say is these are local. I don't know if they have them in your city, but I would look them up. That was the first program that I did, blew my mind, changed my life. Boom. Thank you. Wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. I was a different person. I also went to the Pacific Institute's Investment in Excellence, Peak Potential. Again, I'm not sure if they're still around. I think they are, but Train the Trainer 1 and 2 and the Ultimate Leadership Camp, Master of Influence. And I was 7 years in Toastmasters, and I also did continuing education at our local university. So why is that important to you? Well, first of all, you can't tell me something can't be done because I came from a place where I thought my life was preordained and it was a train wreck to being a very, very successful at what I do. So you can't tell me it can't be done. And that's an important part for you if you're thinking about hiring me as your coach, because I'm going to push you to do things that make you feel uncomfortable. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable to create high levels of success. You have to do things that are difficult. You know, I was, as a young person, the idea of public speaking just terrified me. I'm not going to get into too many of the details about my exposure to public speaking because that's not the important part, but how I overcame it was going to Toastmasters and joining organizations that pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And I had the opportunity to speak at a global conference with almost 800 people there. So that was an exciting event for me. So way outside of my comfort zone, but I did it. I pulled it off. So whatever you want to do, you can too. Okay. So this is a quote from Wayne Dyer. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Because here's the thing, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. And that's why you see somebody that has what appears to, on the surface anyway, look like enormous success. And other people struggle with success. It's because they don't see the world as it is. They see the world as they are. And so they're just repeating what's internally inside them. So I always think about what you think about comes about. And you can't have stinking thinking and expect something good to come out of that. So you got to look at things and change things. So I put this little here, this rock as a huge obstacle. So it's like, oh my God, how am I going to get past this rock? Well, there's how you get past the rock. You look for another rock that you can use as a stepping stone. So this is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So keep that in mind as I go through this presentation. So here's the thing, and I want to emphasize this because I know that if I was talking to you face to face, because I've seen this hundreds, if not thousands of times where I'm talking to business owners and they're nodding their head like, yeah, I know this, I've heard this, I've seen this, I've done this, blah, 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 blah. Here's the thing, it's not enough to know. If you're not actually doing it, you don't know it. Here's the thing. I talked to my client. So we said, oh, okay, you're going to build a job description. Here's an outline for the job description. You're going to build this for this one position for your company, and we're going to go through it next week, and then you're going to create more of these things. And they go, yeah, no problem. I know what I'm doing. And the next week we come up there and they go, yeah, no, I didn't really know what I was doing. So unless you're doing it, because when he started or she started to do the work on the job description, they realized that they didn't know what they didn't know. And so we worked together to create that first job description, and then they built one out for every other position in their company. So, and I say this, it's not enough to know, you have to do, because how many of you know you should be eating healthier? How many of you know you should be more active? You should be stop complaining, read more, drink less. I'm talking about alcohol. You should drink more water, spend more time with your family. How many of you know that you should spend more time with your family, but you're not? Or how many of you know that you'd love to spend more time with your friends, but you don't seem to have time to do it? Or how many of you know you need to set goals or make a plan and you haven't? And how many of you know you need to get what you want with your business, you need to learn more? Somebody smarter than I said to me one day, said, earn only comes before learn in the dictionary. You got to learn more if you want to earn more. So if you want to have a successful business, you've got to learn more. And that's part of our coaching program. So be times do equals have. So what does that mean? Well, you want to have things, whatever that might be. Maybe it's freedom. Maybe it's peace of mind. Maybe it's financial freedom. Maybe it's time freedom. Maybe it's you want to have a paid for home or vacation home, or maybe you want to take vacations every year, or maybe you want to have a Harley Davidson motorcycle or a boat or a plane or whatever it might be. You know, there's things you want to have, but in order to have those things, there's certain things you need to do. But in order to do those things, you need to be the person who does those things. Because it's, and Jim Rohn said this, and I'm going to share a couple of quotes with him in a minute, but when you set goals, so you say, you know, I want to get my business from 500,000 to 1 million, or I want to get my business from 1 million to 2 million, or 2 to 4, or 4 to 8, or 8 to 16, and on it goes. You need to be that person that owns and runs a $10 million company. You can't be and own a $500,000 company and it's going to magically turn into $10 million. It doesn't work that way. You need to become the owner of a $10 million company and then do what the owners of $10 million companies do so that you can have it. Does that make sense? Awesome. So I talked about Jim Rohn. Never wish that life were easier, wish that you were better. In other words, don't wish that your problems were smaller. Grow yourself bigger than your problems. That's the best and easiest way to solve them. But you can't do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. So you've got to, as I said, learn more. Here's the thing, you don't know what you don't know. So work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Sorry, I had to move that just in case anybody else was, you can't see what I was doing anyway, but just in case other people were joining. So let's keep moving along. Now, many of you have seen this slide. If you've seen any of my videos, you've seen this slide before. I'm sorry, this is a foundation for success. Ownership, accountable, and responsible. This is your ship. This is your company. You need to hold yourself accountable for success, and you need to hold yourself responsible if you're going to succeed. If you blame your team, if you blame the economy, if you blame worse yet, blame your customers, and God forbid you do that, because that's a disaster waiting to happen, because you might not complain directly to your customers about them being a pain to you, but they pick up that vibe from you. And so when they get an opportunity to take their business elsewhere, that's what they're going to do. And that's not what we want them to do. One of the things about a successful business is you want people to come back again and again and refer all their friends and family and colleagues to come and do business with you because you're so awesome. Because they shouldn't do business with anybody else, because if they are, they're getting shortchanged, because you in your company brings the most value to your prospective clients or customers. So, excuses. Let me ask you this question. How many of you have blamed somebody else or made an excuse and it got better? I don't see anybody putting their hand up. You get it. Like, it doesn't happen. And denial is basically, there's a funny little story. There's a couple of fish that come swimming together, and one fish says to the other fish, "How's the water?" And the other one goes, "What's water?" See, a fish doesn't know they're in water. So in your business, sometimes you're so accustomed to the frustration, the stress, and the anxiety that you just think that's normal, and it's not normal. There is a business in your world where you don't feel stressed out, you don't feel anxious, where you have a great team of people, where you make more money than you know what to do with. But when you're in denial and you're saying, "Oh, things are good," when they're not good, then you're always going to struggle and challenge. And I want to talk about the number one excuse that I hear from clients when we first start out, until I sort of step on their big toe, if I could call it that, kick them in the butt, however you want to describe that, is excuses. The number one excuse is time. I didn't have time. To which I say, BS. You didn't make it a priority. Do you really want this? Are these goals important to you? Yes, they are. Okay, well then no more excuses. Just get it done, because there's always, always time. So if you're above this line, this yellow line, then you're part of the solution to the challenges that you're experiencing in your business and your life. If you're below the line, you are the problem. So we don't want to be dragging this around with us, because it just makes life much more difficult. Okay, so let's talk about the formula for change. I want you to, as I talk about this, to write this formula down. E times V plus FS is greater than R. So what that means is dissatisfaction times vision plus first steps becomes greater than your resistance to change. So as you can see here, I put some numbers in here just to give it some context in that. So 10 times 5 plus 10 doesn't even come close to 1,000. So there's no way that you're going to overcome the resistance to change with that those first numbers in that box. But if you go 50 times 50 plus 10, then you're way over the resistance to change of 1,000. And so now you've got that power behind you. So how do we gain that power? Well, first we get really clear on our level of dissatisfaction. And you start by writing everything down that you're dissatisfied with and put a number beside it. Is it a 10 or is it a 1 or is it a 5 or a 7 or a 4, whatever that is. But get really clear on what you're dissatisfied with. So it could be, I'm working way too many hours. I can't continue to do this forever. Or, I got a pretty good team, but not a great team, or I got some good people, I got some bad people. There's no good people. I can't find good people. I can't keep good people. I can't get the best, whatever that is that you're mostly dissatisfied with. Or, as hard as I work, you'd think I'd be making a lot more money than I'm making now. And I can't tell you how many business owners I've talked to who, they go, I'm a really good electrician or a plumber, or a eavesdropper or a cider or a plumber. I think I said plumber. You know what I mean? And so they start their own business. At first, they're doing well because it's just them. And then they hire somebody and they probably do pretty good with two because they can work faster and get more done, get more jobs. But then they hire three people and then they have four people and then they have five and then they have 10. And now all of a sudden they find out I'm working 6 and 7 days a week and I could make more money if I went back to when there was two or three of us. So that might be part of the dissatisfaction. And then you want to get clear on what the vision is. What does your business look like if it's providing you with everything that you dreamt of and wanted to have? So, it's doing $1 million with 10% net, or it's doing $5 million with 15% net, or it's doing $10 million with 10 to 15% net profit. And I have a great team of people. I have managers who not only manage the systems and processes of their part of the business, but they lead their people and they get the best out of those people that work for them. And I'm having a great life. So you want to create a real big gap between the dissatisfaction and the vision. And then you want to write down 5 things you need to do tomorrow or even today to start to move forward with that. Because now you're gain some momentum to get past the resistance to change. Because we all have resistance to change at some level. Some of us less and some of us more. So think about this formula for change as you go about growing your business. So dissatisfaction times vision plus first steps is greater than resistance. Okay, so I'm not going to dive too deep on this. I just want to make this point. I always make this point because it's so important, and that is the acronym for team, and that is together, everyone achieves more. Together. That means us. We work together, we achieve more than individuals on their own. And it takes leadership to make that happen. It's not being a boss. It's not a good boss. Hey, I'm a great boss. I'm really good at bossing people around. You should see me boss. I can be the best boss. You get my gift of this. Leadership is about helping people become the best that they can be. And when you do that, they're doing it where? Inside your company. How could that be a bad thing? Okay, so moving along. I put this slide in here because I'm going to talk a little bit about how the brain functions and why the reason why we struggle sometimes with change. And so if you can imagine your brain has something like, or pardon me, let's start here. Your brain weighs about 3.5 pounds. And 75% of it is made up of water and then this gray matter. And inside there's something like 80 to 100 billion neurons. And these are neurons right here. And these little connections are synapses. They connect together to start to create your personality. I can't think of a better way to put it at this particular moment, but it forms your language. It forms your movement. It forms, everything about you. These neurons connect together with these synapses and create who you are. So they create your personality, and your personality creates your personal reality. So if you're somebody who's highly stressed out, anxious, pardon me, I should have brought some water with me. Actually, you know what? Just give me a second. I do have some water. Have a drink. That's better. So it's really important to understand how this brain works because it's really shows you how you experience the world and how people experience you. And I'm going to share with you why it becomes more difficult as you grow your team, but it doesn't have to be difficult. So let's talk a little bit about cortisol. So everybody's experienced the fight, flight, or freeze. Maybe a dog ran up from you behind you, barking and growling, and whoa, or maybe somebody almost ran you over, or something caused you to experience a high level of the fight, flight, or freeze. So what happens is your body is flooded with cortisol and adrenaline because right now there's 3 things that are important for you, and there's one thing that's important to you, and that's your survival. And so all that matters is like I can either fight or I can run. Or like if you look at a rabbit, oftentimes they'll just sit very still, freeze, because they know that somebody or pardon me, that won't be noticed, possibly won't be noticed. So this is not a healthy way to live your life, though, because if you are under constant attack with cortisol and adrenaline, it's going to break down your, first of all, it's going to break down your healthy cells, but it's going to make it very difficult for you to think your way out of problems and come up with solutions. Because when you're in a high level of stress, it doesn't become about we, it becomes about me. So my problem, my survival, not the team's survival. But where we get the most out of our team, where we get the most out of our people is when we create a we situation. And this is why this work comes from Judith Glazier's book, Conversational Intelligence. I actually took a course with her too. It's amazing. Unfortunately, she passed away recently. Well, actually, it's probably 2 or 3 years ago now, but really groundbreaking work when it comes to working together as a team. So the other hormone or neurotransmitter is oxytocin. Now, if you've ever held a baby, or if you're a dog lover like I am, or an animal lover like I am, when you touch and feel and pet your animals, or hold that baby and it's cooing or giggling or whatever, all the things that babies do, your body releases oxytocin into the system, and that's the bonding chemical that makes you just feel really peaceful and at home. That and serotonin, but this and specifically, I want to talk about oxytocin. So what it does when you release that, and so this is why it's so important that you build this inside your workshops, inside your team meetings, so that you're releasing oxytocin, because it opens the brain up to collaboration. It opens people up to be able to work together. Now, for some of you, if you're not used to doing workshops and stuff like that, reach out to me. I do 1 and 2 day workshops on different subjects. And if you go to my website, you can hear some reviews about some of the work that I've done. So it's amazing. It's life-changing. And it's part of the reason why I do what I do, because I love changing people's lives. So Judith Glazer said, creating we index to get to the next level of greatness depends on the quality of the culture. Now, if you're not sure what culture is in your company, if you're a smaller company, you might not have really talked about this much. If you're a half decent sized company, then you've probably had conversation about culture. But what I talk about with culture is it's a living entity inside your company, and it's vibrating, and it's either healthy or unhealthy. So the quality of the culture, which depends on the quality of the relationships with the people who you work with, which depends on the quality of the conversations that you have with those people. Everything happens through conversations. And you want to set the stage for people to be able, as it says over here with the oxytocin, to open their brains to collaboration, to working together, to create something special that you can't do on your own. So the trust, pardon me, here I go again. The trust ladder. Judging, control, fear, and manipulation. That's going to get and keep people focused on me, my own survival. Co-creation, candor, openness, and partnership. Now, candor just means like being able to have difficult conversations. And anybody can have difficult conversations. I remember the very first time I had to have a difficult conversation with an employee. I thought it went right off the rail to start with. But in the end, when the employee came in the next day, he thanked me profusely for the feedback that I gave him. So, whenever I think about difficult conversations, I always think, if you stay with them, they always turn out well. They always turn out well. So there's 3 levels of conversation. It's transactional, so that's really just about telling and asking people. There's positional, which is, an advocate or inquiring about things. And then there's transformational, which is the co-create. And that's where we want to be as a team. We want to work together as a team. So let's look at the iceberg identity and talk about a little bit of what we can learn from this. So everybody knows that the vast majority of an iceberg is below the water's surface. I think it's 80 or 90% of an iceberg is below the water's surface. So you can imagine if you see like a iceberg that's the size of a small apartment floating along, you can imagine the size that's underneath the water. So it's similar in when we think about the people who work with us. So all we really see is the actions that they take, behaviors, decisions, and the results that they get. And that's the very conscious part of who we are. Now, below the water surface is what we call it, what I'm referring to as the unconscious mind. So that's your skills, your beliefs, your values, your identity, and your environment. So, skills. The great thing about skills, if you got somebody with a great attitude, you can teach them anything. So this is an easy one to work on. Now, beliefs and values and identity are a much more difficult animal to work with. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't, because when you open up that space, that awareness and work together, you can really pull people out of this state of believing that they can't do something, or maybe they got bad values, like good values, honesty, integrity, hard work, teamwork, friendly, fun. Those are all good values. Bad values, dishonesty, no integrity. I don't like people. All those are all values that people have. You don't want to have the bad values in your company. And then the identity is I can or I can't. And as Henry Ford, sorry, Henry Ford said, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So here's the thing, identity. You want to help people get to this point where I can do anything. Now, the environment is something that you have at least at your workplace, that you have something that you can work with. And I'll give you an example. There's an environment that's really physical. So that's how the office or shop or areas where people work together is organized. That's part of the environment. But the other part of the environment is, are people working together? Do they have integrity? Are they being honest? I'll give you an example. I went over to work with a new client, and I walked into their office, and their shop was in the back, and I could hear two people dropping F-bombs on each other. And I walked into the shop, and they were just like, it was one of the managers and one of the employees, and they were not having a healthy conversation. That's part of the environment. So if you can imagine, these two guys are like, I mean, volatile, dropping F-bombs on each other, and there's like 10, 15 other people standing around. You can imagine how they were being affected by that. So I put this little guy on the side here, and he said, we have 80,000 unconscious thoughts every single day. And so if we're not managing those thoughts, then those thoughts can take us to places that cause a lot of frustration and anger. Okay, so I want to make a point about something here, and that is experience by itself does not create understanding, and it does not create wisdom. Knowledge by itself does not create understanding and does not create wisdom. But if you combine experience, so that's the doing, and the knowledge, reading, understanding, you lead to understanding, and then you have wisdom. So that's where wisdom comes from knowing and, pardon me, from the knowledge and from experiencing things. That creates a level of wisdom, which is what we want to do inside our businesses. We want people to make wise choices. Okay, so just a couple more slides here to go. So we cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking used to create them. That was Albert Einstein. So how do we solve problems? Well, we think about it from a divergent thinking standpoint to start with. That means brainstorming as many ideas as possible and exploring new possibilities through brainstorming. Now, when I talk to people about brainstorming, I say, throw the crazy out, because it's like you open a door and you open another door. You open up that door and you go, oh, wait a minute, that was crazy, but here's a couple more doors. Oh, wait a minute, there's something that we could do. Because it opens up that creative process inside people's brains, and you start to co-create together. So, and then convergent thinking is, now you got to take that down. So if you come up with 5 or 10 ideas about creating a new possibility in your business, whether that's growing from 1 million to 2 million or 2 million to 4 or whatever that is, or creating a great team or providing exceptional service, whatever it might be. Now you've got 5 or 10 ideas. You got to whittle it down to the ones that you can actually use and implement. And you don't pick, even if there's 10 good ideas, you don't do 10 in a quarter. You might do 2 or 3 in a quarter, because if you try to do 10, you're going to do none. So the convergent thinking is to narrow those focus down into workable solutions. Okay, so I got an empty slide here. Reason being is because I put this slide and I forgot to move it in. So here's why it gets a little bit difficult when you start to add people, because you remember I talked about all the different emotions in the iceberg identity, the skill, the beliefs, the values, the environment, the identity. So you got 5 people here and things seem to be going along pretty good, and then all of a sudden you got 2 or 3 people and it's not going so good. So, when you want to get rid of all of those people, and I say get rid of those people, it's like the first thing you do is give them every opportunity to become one of these people here. And if they refuse, then you got to help them find work elsewhere. And how do you help them find work elsewhere? You let them go so that they can go look. People have to learn lessons in life. You give them every opportunity to learn that lesson. If they don't get it, then you got to move on. You got to get rid of those people, because they will start to upset all of these people here. Okay, sorry. My apologies. So, extraordinary businesses aren't built by playing small. The challenge is simple. If you're ready to get it done, and if you're ready to do the extraordinary, because I don't want to, here's the thing. It takes the same energy to build extraordinary as it does to do ordinary, but extraordinary is way more fun, way more fun. Ordinary is filled with stress and anxiety and frustration, and extraordinary is filled with adventure, growth, fun, peacefulness, calm, all that kind of stuff. So if we're at this place here, we want to get to here, but we're struggling to get to there, book a discovery call. I put the link into the chat, so you can click on the link right in the chat, and it'll take you right to the page where you can go and book directly into my calendar, and then we'll start out with a discovery call. And if you haven't watched one of my videos, I got to give you the reasons why. A discovery call is really a short call. First of all, I want to know what the challenge is, and is it possible that I can help you solve that problem? And if I can, do I feel like we could work together? And you want to experience the same thing. Do you feel like you can work with me? And if we both agree that we can work together and that we're headed in the right direction, and I can help you solve that solution, then we'll book a complimentary coaching session for you. And in that time, we'll identify the causes of the challenge. So I look at if you are working too much, or you're not profitable, or you got a dysfunctional team as being symptoms. So I need to understand what the cause is, and then I'll share with you the solutions. And if you feel like you can do it on your own, awesome, I'm happy for you. But if you think, you know what, I want to go faster, farther, and I know I can do it with your help, then we'll look for a program that fits your budget. So again, my name is Laurie McNaughton, and I am the founder of TPQ Business Coaching, and I am your scaling up business coach. And listen, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Get booked into my calendar. We'll have a conversation. If it goes nowhere, it goes nowhere, but it happens in a short period of time. Take care. Have yourself a fantastic day. I enjoyed this presentation. If you want to go watch it again, go to my YouTube channel. How do you get to my YouTube channel? Go to lauriemcnaughton.com. Scroll down. You'll see there's a button. You can just click right on YouTube, and you can go see all the other videos that I've created. Onward and upward. I'm looking forward to the opportunity to being of service to you one day. Take care and have a great day.